It's Thursday, August 30th. Stating that dissent is a safety valve for democracy, without which the pressure cooker will burst, the Supreme Court on Wednesday directed that the 5 rights activists arrested by the Pune police not be taken into police custody. Instead, be kept in house arrest until the next date of hearing. This direction by the Apex Court came on a public interest litigation filed by 5 eminent persons questioning the arrests and seeking an independent investigation into the case. The petition claims the arrests were an attempt to muzzle dissenting voices who have fought for the rights of the dispossessed for decades. The raids and arrests on Tuesday were carried out in connection with a public meeting organized by Dalit and Adivasi groups days before caste-related violence broke out in Bhima Koregaon near Pune on the 1st of January. Remember the Geo Institute memes from last month? Prompted by the selection of Reliance Foundation's non-existent Geo Institute as among India's 6 institutions of eminence? Well, the Ministry of Human Resource Development and the Ministry of Finance, it now emerges, had raised strong objections against the government giving Institute of Eminence status to non-existent institutions. The Indian Express reports, citing official records accessed under the Right to Information. The newspaper reports that while the HRD and Finance Ministries push for stringent norms on accountability, financial commitment, penalties, land availability and expertise, the Prime Minister's office wanted a more liberalized regime on all these points. Here's one example on qualification and experience. The HRD Ministry's draft states that members of the sponsoring organization of a greenfield private institution should have experience either as sponsors or heads, which is vice chancellor or director, in setting up a higher education institution. The Prime Minister's office replaced this with a clause requiring some members of the organization to have credentials that demonstrate commitment to education. The HRD Ministry wrote back, "This requirement is a little generic and intangible. Most persons would be able to satisfy that." In response, the Prime Minister's office wrote, "A more principles-based condition, as we propose, would give the empowered expert committee enough flexibility to encourage sponsors to enlist the services of those that are genuinely interested." What determines the results of what you Google? An anti-conservative or anti-Republican bias, according to US President Donald Trump. In a Twitter tirade that preceded a formal statement, Trump said, "Google search results for Trump news shows only the viewing, reporting of fake news media. Republican, conservative and fair media is shut out. This is a very serious situation, will be addressed." By fake news, Trump means CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, The Economist, even the Columbia Journalism Review, or any site that may have reported news critical of him. His tirade appears to be based on an article in news website PJ Media that accused Google of blatant prioritization of left-leaning or anti-Trump media outlets, saying left-leaning sites comprised 96% of the total results. Responding to the accusation, Google said, "Search is not used to set a political agenda, and we don't bias our results towards any political ideology." Which takes us back to the 2016 US elections, when Google did face the heat after one of its top results for final election count linked users to a fake news WordPress blog named 70 News, which claimed that Trump won the popular vote by a margin of almost 700,000. He didn't. Following this and similar reports, Google initiated a series of moves to curb fake news, including cutting off advertising revenue to fake news sites and tweaking algorithms to sniff up fake news based on spam filters. To conclude, while the exact working of Google's algorithm is not known, it is understood that the company uses a number of credible measures to weigh search rankings, an outlet's longevity, reputation, its ability to fill stories with relevant keywords, reported The Verge magazine. Though we're not sure if Trump would accept that as a credible source. Dubbed urban Maoists, civil rights lawyers and rights activists have been arrested by the Pune police under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, a law widely viewed as having potential for misuse, even draconian. Let's understand why. The Unlawful Activities Prevention Act was first enacted in 1967. This came in the backdrop of the Naga Rebellion. The act then was limited to meeting the challenge to the territorial integrity of India. It is in 2004 that the act began to take the shape that it has now assumed. The infamous POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act, that was grossly abused, was repealed by the Manmohan Singh government in 2004. It then brought an amendment to the UAPA to deal with terror activities, incorporating certain provisions of the repealed POTA. The three most abused provisions, though, were kept out, namely, provision making getting bail near impossible, provision that allowed police custody beyond the regular 15 days, and admissibility of confession before a police officer. It is the amendments to the Act in 2008, after the Mumbai terror attacks, and the subsequent one in 2012 that expanded draconian powers to the state. Let's look at the wide powers the state enjoys now under the UAPA. The problems begin with the definitional clause itself, as legal analyst Gautam Bhatia writes in The Hindu. The definition of unlawful activities includes disclaiming or questioning the territorial integrity of India and causing disaffection against India. These words are staggeringly vague and broad and come close to establishing a regime of thought crimes. The problem also extends to the membership clause. Membership of unlawful and terrorist organization is a criminal offense and can be punished with life in prison. But the Act fails entirely to define what membership entails. Are you a member if you possess literature or books about a banned organization? If you express sympathy with its aims? If you have met other active members? These are not theoretical considerations, Gautam Bhatia argues. Charge sheets under the UAPA often cite the seizure of books or magazines and the presence at meetings as clinching evidence of membership. The police, remember, has tried to prove membership of the Communist Party of India Maoist simply by pointing to the person possessing Maoist literature. If you're wondering where you first heard of thought crimes, perhaps in George Orwell's dystopian novel 1984, in the totalitarian state setting, which criminalizes the act of holding unspoken beliefs or doubts that oppose or question the ruling party. In its 2011 judgment in the Arup Bhuyan case, the Supreme Court held that mere association or membership with a banned group could not be considered criminal unless the person resorts to violence or incites people to violence. Under the UAPA, the accused can be sent to police custody for 90 days. Police custody is a period of detention when you cannot apply for bail. The Act further allows the court to extend this to 180 days. Even after this period, when an accused applies for bail, it is near impossible to get bail because the Act holds that an accused cannot be given bail if the court looks at the police report and finds reasonable grounds to believe the accusation. In effect, courts deny bail till the framing of charges and even beyond. The time taken for a case to go to trial in India is well documented. The Law Commission in its report last year had cautioned against automatic denial of bail to persons accused of terror acts. And finally, Achanta Sharat Kamal and Manika Batra added another feather to the cap of Indian table tennis when they bagged the bronze medal in the Asian Games mixed doubles category. This was India's second medal from TT. The men's team had won the bronze on Tuesday to give India their first table tennis medal in Asian Games history. And Narpinder Singh has done it, India's first triple jump gold at the Asiad in 48 years. As also Swapna Barman winning the gold medal in heptathlon. And the Indian women's hockey team beat China in the semis to make their first Asian Games final in 2 decades. Go for gold, we say. See you tomorrow.